All right, hello everybody, and welcome to Patriots First and Goal. I am Alec Shane here with my good buddy Rich Hill on this new 2024 season, or new 2024 year, I should say. The 2023 season is mercifully limping to a close. That's Boston Buffalo. We started yakking before we hit record, and this is just too much fun. We should get this on air, on live. Rich Hill, first off, Happy New Year to you. Hope you and your family had a good New Year. I was in bed by 10:30. It was fantastic. Did you do anything? Did you party it up, or were you lame like me?
I apparently lived it up. I was in bed at 11:30, so
Nice.
I woke up at like 12:01 just to say Happy New Year's to my wife, and then went right back to bed. It was ideal. It was everything
Yeah,
I want in a New Year's Eve.
good work. It is the most overrated holiday.
No
People get all
question.
dolled up. They pay like $500 for this like buffet and open bar, and it's really crowded. And then 12 o'clock comes, and everyone's all happy for about 45 seconds, and then it's 12:01, and they're like, "Well, you want to go home? I'll go home." Stupid.
Yeah. I
And
used to live in New York City, and my first apartment there overlooked Times Square. And I went on the roof for New Year's one to just see the ball drop. And without a doubt, it is just the most shoulder shrugging event of the season, where you just go, "Huh, all right,
yeah,
going home."
you could not pay me to go to Times Square on New Year's Eve. There are no bathrooms. There's no like vending machines. You're just kind of there, shoulder to shoulder for like 8 hours, listening to was it Ryan Seacrest blathering on, and it just seems like an absolute mess. Much like the Patriots offense against the
Hey,
Buffalo Bills. Rich, let's get into it. First and goal. The reason I wanted to hit record right away because we were just laughing so hard about what we saw in the first quarter of that game. It was kind of annoying at first, but then it was like by like the fourth turnover, I was like, I feel like I was Dave our dentist. Like, is this real life? Is this happening? I don't know. And all those like camera pans over to Mac Jones on the sideline with his helmet on, ready to go in. Is he going to make the transition? He didn't. It's funny, 27-21 to the Bills at Buffalo. I will take that result all day, but it's more just the way they lost that really kind of sticks with me.
totally. I mean, they were competitive after the first 10 minutes of the game, essentially. Like they did what they needed to after their comedy of errors. But if you go from a pick six, or I guess it was the first interception that led to a field goal because the defense, bless them, held them to 4 yards after starting basically in the red zone. So kudos to the defense. You get no credit against you on that one, but my goodness, I have a stat that I'll share afterwards. But you do that, and then you eventually throw another interception on the pass to Pharaoh Brown or Devontae Parker. That was also again within the red zone when they got it. You had a fumble, and then it was just like over and over and over and over again. This offense, let me tell you, is worse with Zappy than it is with Mac Jones.
Yes. I mean, again, good. Let Zappy cook. He cooked, he burned it, and then we all threw it away. I feel like I'm watching the HBO movie The Menu with Bailey Zappi. Everyone's going to get roasted at the end of it. Absolute disaster. Spoiler alert, in case you haven't seen it yet. But yeah, I mean, look, great start. Jalen Reagor took one to the house. Holy crap. And then there was almost a strip sack. Bills went 3 and out. Awesome. Sounds great. And then it was a 1-play interception. Then it was 3 plays for 5 yards. Then it was another first play interception. That was 2 plays for 5 yards for the fumble. And then they went 3 and out. Their best drive of the first half or first quarter was 3 plays for -7 yards. And I think I was texting on our group bet is like, the way this is going, the defense is going to be completely exhausted by halftime. It's going to be like 35-0. But the defense, as you mentioned, what a day they had. Arguably their best day of the season. The fact that it was 4 turnovers and they were only down 6 points as the quarter came to a close. Then there was the pick six. It was 20-7. And then the Patriots actually had a good drive. They generated like a 75-yard, 6-play drive. But there's just no reality where you watched anything this Patriots offense did against Buffalo and think anything about Bailey Zappi being anything other than a career backup Are you surprised they didn't put Mac Jones in, or was it more just like, this is Zappy's ship to go down with, and we're just going to stick with him and just fail miserably?
Yeah, I mean, at this point in the season, like, why would you put Mac
Why would
Jones
you? Why
back in?
bother?
Like, if it's something where maybe Zappy throws, 5 interceptions in a row, then, like, you kinda have to out of the spirit of showing your players that you're trying. But honestly, like, the defense was being as competitive as they could be. The game was never really out of reach, even if it felt like it from a score perspective. Like, the game wasn't over, by any means. That they were obviously down 13 points at the half. But Zappy, or I guess they responded before the half with that Zappy 17-yard run. But they were down 20-7 after the series of turnovers. But the game was never out of reach. Once those turnovers were done, the defense settled in. The offense obviously did nothing. But it was competitive enough. If it was something where the Bills were up 35-0, maybe. But because it was still close enough, because they're competitive, they're not going to bench Zappy. Even though, again, I will continue to say this offense is no better under Zappy as it is with Mac Jones. There's no more added hope value for having Zappy in there versus with Mac Jones. And by pretty much every single metric, they are less efficient. He's turning over the ball just as much, if not more. His interception rate is higher. His sack rate is higher. His adjusted yards per attempt is lower. Their expected points added per drop back is lower with Zappy. So by every single metric, they are doing worse. And if you look at how the offense as a whole outside of Zappy, and obviously many caveats with all the different players on the injured reserve and stuff like that. But again, this offense is so bad. There's no point in benching Zappy because what are you going to do? There's nothing there that's going to help fix it because it goes so far beyond the quarterback.
It's funny, speaking I agree with everything you just said, but a slight counterpoint that Bailey Zappi has to offer that Mac Jones doesn't, which only adds to my frustration on what we've seen from Mac Jones this season, is once or twice a game, you will get this absolute laser from Bailey Zappi. You saw it with Jalen Reagor. You saw it with Hunter Henry a couple weeks ago into Steelers. Like he's capable of making really, really good throws, and we never saw any of those with Mac Jones. So at least Bailey Zappi, he's good for like a throw or two a game where you're like, oh, that's NFL quarterback caliber play. So that's kind of nice. Something to cheer for amid the massive piles of suck. The good news also, Rich, let's get the second goal here. We're still talking about the Bills game, but this was a great loss in a lot of ways. Defense played great, like we said. They hung in there. The Cardinals somehow won. They upset. So the Patriots are right back in the top three. I know you've been on Team Tank for a while here.
Yep.
Were you? I forgot we talked about it in our last podcast. Were you rooting for a Patriots win here? Or were you happy with the loss overall?
I'm happy with a loss overall. Again, right. Like I will continue to say that if they win and they look good doing it, I'm cool with that. If they're playing well and then Demario Douglas has a breakout day where he puts up 150 yards and 2 scores and they win in just convincing fashion, I will always support that. If they come out and the offensive line just steamrolls the Bills defense play after play after play, then that's cool. Because right now at this point of the year, obviously you want to have like good draft position, but I would rather have players on the roster playing well than to be like, I want everything to be garbage, because that means that next year you have an entire roster of garbage. I would love for some players to stand out. I would love for there to be blue chip players on this offense to get excited about. That hasn't necessarily happened, so I'm okay with them losing. And for them to do it in a way that feels like they haven't lost the locker room, I think is one, testament to Bill Belichick. I think supports the idea that he might be coming back next year. But it feels very similar to that 2009 Patriots team when Belichick was like, I can't get these players to do what I want them to do. We mentioned this earlier in the year, but Trent Brown, the best offensive lineman they have, being a healthy scratch because he's been openly vocal about how unhappy he is with some of the coaching decisions. That speaks a lot to, okay, Belichick is now saying, I'm going to run this team in a way that is most effective to the players that want to be here. And the players are responding. They are playing hard to the last whistle. Obviously, players across the entire offensive roster is hurt. You can't account for Chad Ryland missing about 6 kicks a game. Otherwise, they would have won this one. It's just one of those situations where you see competitive fire out of this team, even if they don't have the talent to back it up. And I'll take that every single week.
The NFL regular season is wrapping up, but there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. The app is so easy to use, and there are so many different ways to bet, like live same-game parlays, find bets in the new Explore tab, make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, the best way to find popular parlays, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/Boston and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
To that point, Rich, kind of fits to my second and goal overall theme. Was there any player, maybe not necessarily just in the Buffalo game, but is anybody on the offensive side of the ball pleasantly surprised you in the last game or a couple of games where you're like, you know what, maybe this guy's a future on this team, or are you all about the offensive fire sale?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that there's anything that I would hang my hat on outside of the players that we've talked about all year long. Like Demario Douglas, I think that he's going to be a solid piece moving forward. You know, he's already put up one of the best rookie seasons of a Patriots receiver ever. You know, never mind just the Bill Belichick era, but like one of the best Patriots rookie seasons ever. And so I have a lot of hopes for how he'll continue to develop moving forward. He's going to give them a solid, you know, #2 receiver. You know, maybe he can develop even more, you know, like, but he gives them a solid piece in the receiving room that they can't otherwise count on. Love that. Player that we've been pleasantly surprised by, Ezekiel Elliott. I mentioned this in our text thread. Would love for him to come back next year if he's willing and open to it. I think that he runs hard. He competes. He's a good leader within the locker room. Wouldn't blame him if he didn't want to come back to the Patriots, but he's someone that, you know, when the offensive line is doing well, I can see him being a solid running back. He's a good #2. Would love for them to have a third down back, but he's a good change of pace back. And right now with his number being called, he's being a good lead back for giving whatever he can take there. But like outside of those skill players, there's not a lot of bright spots. You know, you look up and down the offensive line, obviously want Mike and Nwenu to be back, want them to give him a contract extension. And like, I don't know, maybe City Sao has been doing okay at right guard. But other than that, whole lot of just really bad performances up and down the board.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I feel like you and I have waffled back and forth throughout the course of the season about like, are they literally just like a competent quarterback away from being a decent team? And sometimes like the answer to that question, maybe, they have enough pieces. They're enough fours on that team. If you get like if you get like an 8 that can make a bunch of 4s look like 6s and the defense being what it is, yeah, maybe you can hang in there. But they're not going to hang with the good teams. And the fact that they made one of the better teams in the AFC work until the last whistle and need like a clock killing drive. Not that I had any confidence that the Patriots get the ball back, they're going to drive down the field and score a touchdown, especially when it seems like every single Bills punt landed inside the 2-yard line somehow. There's just no way they were going to drive 95 yards and score there. But the fact that the defense could even keep it close with the offense playing that poorly, and most of those guys on the defense, they're coming back next year. They're under contract. There are some guys to extend. Kyle Duggar's probably one of the on the top of that list. I'd love to see Christian Barmore get an extension right now. Matthew Judon's coming back next year, which is also nice. Christian Gonzalez coming back next year. So a lot to be excited about with this defense. But I really, if there was ever any doubt in anyone's mind that this is just, they are not just a quarterback away. I'd like to hope that this Bills game put the rest any debate on that subject.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, like we've talked about this heading into the year that if they could be a top 10 offense, they're a contender. Just based off of how the rest of the roster is constructed, they could have been a contender if they had a top 10 offense. They could be a wild card playoff push team if they just had an average offense. And would a top 5 quarterback make this an average offense? Maybe, but you can't go around expecting that. You know, you got to look for what is the average quarterback going to do with this roster? And you would maybe get a top 20 offense with an average quarterback. Right now, Zappy and Mac Jones are combining to be like ranked 39th and 40th out of 40 starting quarterbacks this year. Like they are bad. They are ahead of probably only Desmond Ridder and Zach Wilson. Like it is bad country for this Patriots quarterbacks team. But you look at how close this team has been. Special teams aside, with the fact that Chad Ryland's, sorry to just like have to name him directly, but
You gotta.
with the Patriots having the most points lost from missed kicks in the entire NFL by a margin, by expected points. Like, we've talked about how, it's, they're 50 plus yarders. They're not easy. Sure. You miss enough of them over time. You're supposed to at least hit 50% of them. And so for them to be missing the most points in the entire league from kickoffs or from field goals is really bad. But for you to have 5 defensive touchdowns allowed is absolutely just impossible for an offense to overcome. And then you add in that there's an additional 6 drives this year that have set up the opposing team essentially within the red zone or already in scoring position, plus the one against the Dolphins that kind of took away Patriots field goal range and gave it to the Dolphins to get right before the half. You have 11 drives there that put points on the board for the opposing team. There's no way to overcome that, but that's also a lot of bad luck. That is something that if you had that league average quarterback, perhaps you would win some of these games, right? There was that stretch of the season where you had the Commanders, Colts, Giants, Chargers in a row. And, even before the jump there, you had the Raiders game. Those were all just immensely winnable games if you just had a competent quarterback out there. I'm not talking about a top 5. I'm not talking about a top 10. You get an average quarterback out there. Patriots right now, they might be 9-7. Like it's something where the Patriots are, yes, a quarterback away from being okay, but they also need to have just an entire makeover done across the offensive roster just to be an overall contender. Because as we said, there's not a lot of players to look forward to for next year.
Which will make for a really interesting offseason conversation, Rich Hill. When you're doing a complete offensive overhaul, do you want to bring a rookie quarterback in there and throw him into an offense in the NFL in flux when highly touted draft prospects come into a well-established offense with a great line and a good running game and still struggle? Are you expecting like a Drake May or a Caleb to come in and magically fix this?
No way.
Again, conversation for the offseason, but that's going to be an interesting one to say the least. It's absolutely wild to me that the Bills only had one scoring drive of their 4, including the field goals that started outside the New England 30. It's you just don't win games like that. Again, not the end of the world. If this is the kind of thing where there was like a playoff spot on the line, I'd be a lot more pissed off. But it was just funny to watch, and I was happy with the results in terms of they played hard. It was a classic Patriots kind of just really crappy play, and they kind of woke up, but it was too late by the time they did. And this whole season's like that. By the time they woke up, it was too late. Now the Buffalo Bills play the Dolphins for the AFC East crown. So it's a pretty fun week 18. Not from a pass perspective, because it's probably the worst game on the roster. Past Jets at 1:00. We can talk about that on third down. Anything else to talk about this Bills game, Rich?
Yeah, I mean, like there's 2 things. One is that, yes, with the Bills next week against the Dolphins, win, they could be the number 2 seed. Lose, they could be out of the playoffs entirely. Yeah. They have just such high leverage on this game. But I think the last takeaway I'd want to take from this game and also the season series between the Patriots and the Bills is that if the Patriots fix their offense, they could be right back at the top of the AFC East. Yeah. They had 2 really good games against Josh Allen. They had 2 really good games against the Bills offense. And that gives me a lot of hope for the future. If they keep Bill Belichick, we can talk about this in the offseason as well. I think that they should retain him at this point. But the fact that they're able to do so well against one of the best quarterbacks in the entire league really makes me feel like if they can figure out this offense, then they can compete against the division. They can go 4-2 in the AFC East. They can go 5-1, and that puts them in a really strong position to start contending again. If they can get that average offense, they are close. They are not as far away as their record suggests this year. They've had a lot of bad bounces, a lot of bad luck, but I think that this game really continued to support that this team is like a few pieces away from being good on offense. But it's a few pieces. This team, the defense doesn't need to be rebuilt. This team could be in good hands if they hit on a few of their draft picks and a few of their free agent signings, and they could be right back in it.
And maybe if their kicker would kick more than 62%.
Oh my gosh.
Not the best. I can't imagine Chad Ryland is back next year. Maybe he'll be in camp with somebody else, chance to kind of win the job. But the Patriots just cannot find a kicker. And I guess maybe it's their punishment for having basically going straight from Vinatieri to Gostkowski over like 20 years. You're kind of due for a kicker situation like this. But still, it's rough knowing you played as badly as you did, and you were still basically 2 missed field goals, very makeable field goals away from 27-27 and the chance to win in overtime. But what you're going to do, at least we're not the Jets, Rich Hill. At least we're not the Jets. Who the Patriots are playing, we'll talk about them on third down. Right back. All right, Patriots. Jets, week 18 is mercifully upon us. This game was TBD in terms of time slot, because I imagine the thought process, this was Mac Jones versus Aaron Rodgers for a game with pretty serious playoff implications when they first made the schedule. Gods made this back in April or May, whenever the schedule comes out. Neither Aaron Rodgers nor Mac Jones are starting for their respective teams. So this game is right where it belongs, in the 1 p.m. slot, where only Patriots and Jets fans are going to watch it. And it's going to be a very weird situation where Patriots fans and Jets fans are probably going to be rooting for the other team to win, because draft implications are all we have to play for right now. However, Rich Hill, before we talk about past Jets, let's go around the league, because this is going to be a really, really fun week in the NFL. There are not that many playoff seedings locked in. The Ravens are locked in, or the 1 seed in the AFC, but that's kind of it. Anybody from the 2 seed to out of the playoffs are on the line for a lot of people. So besides past Jets, barn burner is going to be, what are the games you're most psyched for?
Yeah, I mean, like, talking just for playoff situations, you got the 9-7 Texans on the road against the 9-7 Colts. You're talking about AFC South title as well as a playoff spot. Whoever wins that one, that'll be interesting, because you also have the 9-7 Jaguars on the road against the 5-11 Titans, who would love to play spoilers. You got the 7-9 Bears that are on the road against the Packers, trying to ruin their season, knock them out of the playoffs. That's a great storyline. I think that the Bears are a team that have played pretty well, albeit with like a pretty weak schedule as of late, but it's one where, Matt Eberflus was on the hot seat earlier in the year. They're going to keep him for next year. And then there's a chance that they keep Justin Fields as their starting quarterback, which really opens the door. If the Patriots get that number 2 seed, would they trade up to get Caleb Williams? Would they be fine sitting with someone? But like, if the Bears don't take a quarterback, who knows? Maybe they add Marvin Harrison Jr. or Joe Alt or something like that at that first pick overall. The Patriots could get that top quarterback prospect fall to them. So it might be a high leverage point for the Patriots. But the game, obviously, that I think will be most exciting is that Bills-Dolphins game. They both have so much to play for right now. The Dolphins have been on a little bit of a slide, it feels like, and the Bills have been so up and down all year. I think that the Dolphins really need to find their footing again. They just got blown out by the Ravens, 56-19. So they really have that paper tiger on them. They've lost against pretty much most of the good teams that they faced. They lost to the Bills earlier in the year, 48-20. They lost to the Eagles, 31-17. They lost to the Chiefs, 21-14. This is a team that has not shown that they can compete with or beat the good teams, other than when they beat the Cowboys 22-20. And maybe the Cowboys are a good team. We'll see. So the Dolphins are really trying to prove that they are actually a good team and not just one of those disappointments that'll get knocked out in the opening round. So very curious to see how that game will play out.
That's also the very last game of the regular season. So that worked out really well for the NFL. All divisional games in the last week is a good move. I like the way they do this. Really, really cool. Bills Dolphins is a good one. Chiefs Chargers could be really good. Obviously, Seahawks Cards is one to watch from a draft perspective. If the Cards can win last week, maybe they can win this week too. You never know. They're at Arizona, so here's hoping the Patriots can jump up to that 2 spot. But that would require probably a loss to the Jets. I'm not exactly sure what the draft kind of playoff scenarios are. But hopefully, I know you said from the very beginning, Rich, your team tank, but you are not team lose to the Jets. So I think we're all rooting for a win in this one. And let's get started into the game itself. Patriots offense, as putrid as it was last week against the Jets defense, very similar situation. 2 bad offenses, 2 good defenses. Bailey Zappi is home against a stout passing rush attack. Is this a big running game? Is this going to let Zappi air it out again, throw 3 picks instead of 4? What's your strategy offensively here?
Yeah, this is going to be one of the best pass defenses you play all year. They have one of the best pass defenses through the air. They allow some production on the ground. So it could be a big Ezekiel Elliott day. But obviously, there's just so many issues with the Patriots pass attack that I'm not expecting this to be the game where all of a sudden they challenge the Jets and are able to figure it out. But you have one of the best secondaries in the entire league out there. You have some good coverage linebackers. It's not going to be easy, nor do the Patriots have the horses to be able to pull that off through the air. Where they will be able to do pretty well is on the ground. So I think that they'll be productive running the ball. I don't think that they'll be able to like knock the doors off the barn kind of a thing. But if the Patriots are going to win this game, it's going to be one of those 8-drive kind of a games where they run the ball, slow down the clock, and it's going to be slow and methodical. Maybe Ezekiel Elliott or Kevin Harris will bust out for a 12-yard run kind of a thing. But like, it's not going to be one of those situations where all of a sudden, out of the blue, the Patriots figure it out. And I know full well that I'm jinxing this because that's what I said against the Steelers. And for that one half, it was glorious.
It was glorious, Rich, for that one half. But alas, a one half does not a season make. How about Kevin Harris? I think he played pretty well in very limited action against the Bills. I imagine they'll probably activate him again with Mondre on the IR. Think we'll get more action. You got like 2 running snaps, and obviously that 50-yard screen he caught. You see him more as kind of maybe the de facto by force third down back role you were talking about?
Yeah, I don't even know necessarily as a third down back. Like, obviously, he had that really big catch, but he's not a receiving back, never was in college, isn't now. He'll be that change of pace. Like, Ezekiel Elliott is that third down back. He is the one that will get all of the targets. He had, I don't know if he had like 12 targets or something like that, and like, but it was like 30 yards. Like, he's someone who will absorb targets, might not make a lot of them, but he'll catch them. That's what they'll do. And like, the Patriots will rather that than someone who won't do anything with the ball at all. So I don't think that they're going to throw the ball to Kevin Harris a lot, but they'll give him opportunities. They'll give him a drive here and there, but it will be Ezekiel Elliott in the backfield. I think Kevin Harris has done a good job showing that like he should be on the active roster for next year. And like, honestly, he's doing better this year than he did last year, albeit in very limited time. But I think that this is going to be Ezekiel Elliott likely having to prove what he can behind this Patriots offensive line that is dealing with a lot of injuries. Obviously like Trent Brown is a healthy scratch, not really expecting that to change that much for next week, especially with all of his playing incentives. And obviously like the Patriots probably not wanting to let him do that. Will Vidarian Lowe be the answer against this Jets defensive front? No. So it's not going to be a bully Patriots offensive line, but it's going to be the Patriots' best chance.
It is, which is very, very sad to say, Rich. But here we find ourselves. Let me ask you before I make him my official X Factor. I'm going to tease my X Factor out there because I think he had a pretty decent game if we're kind of recalibrating expectations for what we thought he might bring to the table versus what he's actually bringing to the table. Tyquan Thornton. He had 3 grabs, 24 yards. All 3 targets he caught. He had, I think it was 14 or 15 yards was his long one. They're using him a little bit more. They didn't do it at all on Sunday with kind of the end arounds, the jet sweeps, but they're kind of getting him involved a little more. Is this more just because they literally need a body out there that can potentially catch a pass, or you see him finally maybe worming his way into the offense by getting the reps he got only because they're so injured?
Yeah, don't do this to yourself, man. Don't do this to yourself. This is because Juju Smith-Schuster is on the IR. There's just been so many injuries up and down the board. Like, it is a who else are they going to throw the ball to kind of a situation. They just don't have anyone else. Someone has to line up out there. And with, the Patriots tight ends just not getting it done, right? You had the Pharaoh Brown fumble and you had a Gesicki, target that led to an interception. Like, that was not a tight end game against the Bills. And so like they had to give it to the wide receivers. So I could see him getting snaps again, right? Like he played 70% of the snaps because he was that top outside receiver because, Parker was limited. Will it be the same case next week? Probably. It's the finale. You have Parker on 2 more years. You don't need to get him senselessly hurt for no real reason. Maybe they start him, let him play a couple of drives, and then sit him for Tyquan for the rest of the game. But I'm not going to take any production from Tyquan Thornton as if he's turning it around or if he's won it based off of his talent and production outright. And it's more so the fact that they have about 4 other wide receivers ahead of him in the depth chart that are hurt and unavailable.
To go back to the Bills game real quick, I wanted to talk about this, but I got distracted by a fumble or a turnover. That first turnover that Bailey Zappi threw was a slant to Devontae Parker. I watched it a bunch of times. Is it me, Rich Hill, or is that just a really half-ass slant that Parker ran? And just like he really didn't seem to like make the cut he needed to make. Not that I'm taking blame away from Zappi, but that was not a good slant, right?
No, I mean, I feel like most of those turnovers were like half receiver, half quarterback. But when when it happens about 4 times, the quarterback, that adds up. Their fault percentage is about half of them. So
All right, so going back to the Bills. So what would Tyquan Thornton need to do for you, Rich Hill, for you to be like, you know what? Maybe this guy's got something. What would need to happen?
I would need to see him get at least 7 catches for $150. Like it's something where, he has the speed that he can catch one pass for 70 yards and a score, and it's not going to do it for me because there just hasn't been that consistency. You see any of the other burners that the Patriots have had over the years on the outside, and we're talking not just like the Chris Hogans and Brandon Cooks of the world, but you go back to like Aaron Dobson. Dobson was more consistent than Tyquan Thornton is. And Dobson had his issues. I think that he got a bad rap because he was elevated to such a hard position as a rookie in a very difficult system. But he did the best that he could, and he produced, one of the best rookie seasons from a production standpoint out of necessity. But at least he did something with his opportunities. And, he had that, what was like a 3-catch, 2-score game against the Steelers that one time. I would need to see something more than that here because of how little we've seen from Tyquan Thornton in every other opportunity that he's gotten.
So who is going to be getting we're looking at the ESPN box score come Monday morning. It sort of says New England Patriots receiving. Who is leading the Patriots in receiving yards this week against the Jets?
Oh, Demario Douglas, without question. Like this is how
catches and yards.
Absolutely. He's going to be the chain mover. You're going to have to sacrifice some players. Sauce Gardner on the outside. You're not going to beat him out there, and you're going to have to sacrifice someone to him. And it is likely going to be Tyquan Thornton. You put Rieger out there as well. Again, not a lot of other options that you have, but where the Patriots are going to be able to not even necessarily move the chains, but at least make a completion will be to Demario Douglas underneath. Like that is how they're going to get their completions. Because I also just don't trust Zappy to consistently produce with balls to the sideline. That's just not going to happen. It hasn't happened all year. It's not going to happen now. And where we have seen some form of consistent production is underneath to Douglas, underneath to Henry, underneath to Kendrick Bourne. That's like what we've seen this year. That's been the only thing that's worked this year. And it will be the only thing that will work against the Jets, kind of out of necessity and kind of because the Jets will say like, okay, you can get those 6 yards to Demario Douglas underneath. You're not going to be able to score against us.
Well, there's going to be at least one. Like he's good for one a game. Like I said, Billy Zapp's going to have one ridiculously sweet throw for like 40 yards. Just who's going to catch it? Is it going to be Parker? Is it going to be Rieger? Is it going to be Douglas? I'm going to go with Mike Gesicki. Makes the ridiculous catch this time. He's maybe you talk me on a Tyquan Thornton. I'll go with Mike Gesicki is my X factor. He's not going to have a big day, but he'll have like 2 catches for 35 yards, and his longest grab will be like 32 yards. So he'll have like 1 catch for 3, and then 1 massive one down the field that maybe gets him a field goal attempt. I can't ever say field goal make with Chad Ryland on the field, but they'll have at least be in position to kick one, and maybe that'll get them enough points. And I think it's going to be a very low-scoring game.
Totally. I think it'll be as well. I mean, my X factor is going to be the Patriots offensive line based off of whoever they're going to line up. Like Vidarian Lowe will be my headliner X factor if I have to choose a specific name, because I don't know what else you're going to get. David Andrews, you're going to get his yeoman's like performance out at the center spot, and Wainu is going to be solid at right tackle. Sidi Sow, for all of his flaws, you know what you're going to get from him at right guard. Mafi got benched for Jake Andrews at left guard last week against the Bills. Curious to see what happens there. Low on an island on the left side is going to be a very difficult spot, but basically the Patriots' entire left side of the offensive line is a bad spot. So if they can look like some semblance of okay, then maybe the Patriots will have a chance to be okay on offense. But I'm kind of expecting the Jets and their defensive front. They have enough players out there with Quinnen Williams, Jermaine Johnson, John Franklin Myers. They have players that can disrupt. And so I think that the Patriots are going to have a pretty tough time.
They are. I think you're right. It's going to be a pretty long haul for the offense. Luckily, Rich Hill, I think it'll also be a long haul for the Jets offense against the Patriots defense. Let's move to 4th and goal. Before I go to 4th and goal, Patriots D against Jets offense, because Trevor Siemian, I believe, is listed as a starting quarterback. It is Zach Wilson out, Siemian in. So the vaunted Mac Jones versus Aaron Rodgers matchup is now the Bailey Zappi versus Trevor Siemian matchup. Well, a quick list for you of some of the quarterbacks who are already confirmed as starters for this week in this multi-billion-dollar Week 18 NFL that we all pay so much money to watch. We have Blaine Gabbert starting. We have Carson Wentz starting. We have Nick Mullins, Jeff Driscoll,
Oof.
Easton Stick, Sam Howell, Tyrod Taylor, Mason Rudolph, and our boy Jarrett Stidham will be making a start. Just some of the starting quarterbacks we're going to see around the league due to either injury or resting guys because playoff seating is already established. But Trevor Siemian is a guy that's interesting to me. I don't really have anything to say about him. He's another quarterback who exists and plays football. And that's pretty much all I have to say about him. If he did anything memorable in his tenure so far as a NFL player, I don't remember what it is. The Patriots should have a pretty easy day against him. So I imagine the plan would be to just stop the run at all costs and force him to beat you deep.
Yeah, totally. I mean, he is as mediocre of a quarterback as you can have. He's completed 60% of his passes never in his entire career over the past 4 years of playing football. I guess technically 5 because he didn't really play in 2020, but over the past 5 years of play, he has 1 win in about 9 starts. He's not going to be their savior this year, but the Jets do have some talent, right? They obviously have the worst offense in football. The only reason that the Patriots aren't at the complete and total cellar as it relates to their passing attack is because the Jets are worse. The Jets race. I know, right? Dead last in the league in points per drive, dead last in yards per drive, dead last in time of possession per drive. This is a very, very bad team. They had a couple sparks as of late. They put up 30 points against the Texans, 30 points against the Commanders. Overall, this is a very bad team with not a lot of talent, able to do, like, they're not to overcome the quarterback position. They have 2 players that are really, really good, Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson. Everyone else is pretty okay, or at best, Tyler Conklin. He gets targets because he's a tight end and he starts for them. That's kind of it. Everyone else, complete and total disappointment for this Jets team. They just released Dalvin Cook, who is their number 2 running back. Like, this is not a good Jets team. If I'm the Patriots, I say I'm going to sell out, stop Breece Hall, let my cornerbacks do their work against Garrett Wilson, and I feel pretty confident that this Jets team is not going to be able to move the ball pretty well.
So who are you putting on Garrett Wilson? A banged up Jonathan Jones with safety help, or are you putting somebody else on an island against him? This is Jalen Mills game. What are you doing to kind of shut Wilson out?
Honestly, you mix it up. This is not one of those situations, I feel like, where you have to have man on a man for the entire game. You want to disrupt it. You don't want Siemian to get into a rhythm. You want to throw different looks at him in different disguises. So obviously, like, you want to make sure that he's not going to get into a rhythm with soft zone kind of a play. But I don't think you necessarily have to keep the same cornerback on Garrett Wilson the entire time, because I don't think that the Patriots have the horses really to be able to keep up with it. But I do think that they very well could, if they want to, like, force a few turnovers, because I don't think that the Jets have the ability to overcome a single turnover in this game. Patriots too. This is going to be, as you said, a low scoring game, but I think if the Patriots are able to, mix up the disguises, I think that they're going to be able to capitalize on the fact that they rely so much on Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall in the passing game, but specifically Garrett Wilson, that I think the Patriots are good enough on defense to be able to capitalize on and force a turnover or 2.
I think they can as well. I think this would be a good kind of disguise coverage, send in some linebackers at weird times kind of thing. Siemian's not really good at diagnosing blitzes. He's not really good at diagnosing complex schemes. I can see them using Jelani Tavai, who is my X factor, as like a blitzer. He's had an absolute monster season. He's limited. I don't know if you saw the injury report today, Rich, but he was limited with a tooth injury. So hopefully his tooth is okay by the time Sunday comes around. I feel like he's the kind of guy they can really kind of put him all over the place. They can line him up all over the place. He's decent in coverage, but I think he'd really do well as kind of like a sneaky on the line linebacker where he doesn't play a whole lot, to be honest. I think he can kind of really do a lot of good things on there. I see a lot of weird packages being thrown at Trevor Siemian because I know Bill Belichick wants to win every single week, but it works really well in his favor when he beats the Jets. So I think he's going to he's saving some stuff in the basement, and we'll see it this weekend.
Oh, totally. Anything to beat the Jets. And I mean, the way that the Patriots are set up here, they match up really well against these Jets and their strength. Like Tyler Conklin, I said, pretty mediocre. He is one of the players second on the team in receiving yards. This is going to be a big Duggar game, big whoever the Patriots are able to put out at safety kind of a game, because also if you're going to be throwing it to Breece Hall, if you have to be able to stop the run there, you need a thumper. Duggar is my X factor here. I think that this is his last game for the year on his rookie contract with the Patriots, really trying to reinforce and, he'll test the market. I hope the Patriots match whatever he gets in the open market. He's such a good player for this team, but I'm expecting a big day out of him against this Jets team. He is just so vital to what the Patriots do overall, and specifically matches up really well against the Jets and their strength. But if you can clog that middle of the field, make sure the Hall and Conklin don't move the chains with any regularity, it comes down to, can the Patriots defensive backs guard Garrett Wilson long enough to be able to win it? And I think they can. Whether it's, as you said, is it going to be Jalen Mills on the outside? I don't know. If you want the savvy veteran, you got Miles Bryant, who has been playing really well this year. And then, Alex Austin had his interception last week. Like that, there's players that you can rotate out there. I don't know who they think would be the best matchup, because I also don't know what the Jets are really going to be doing on the other side. Who are they going to be really rotating at the wide receiver spot? Because they have enough receivers of different sizes and skill sets that it might not behoove the Patriots, say Jonathan Jones, you're on this guy for the entire game, because there is that rotation of I don't know who their top player is going to be. Like Jason Brownlee, is he going to be the number 2 receiver? Obviously Xavier Gipson has a lot of speed as a return man, but the Jets have that many question marks on the outside. Last week, Jason Brownlee had almost 100% of the snaps against the Browns. And if you were to say, who is Jason Brownlee? That's fair. I could have made that name up, but he was out there for them. And so do you match him up? He's 6'2", 200 pounds. You don't want him to take over the game, not expecting or saying he will. But because there's so many different forms and styles of these receivers on this Jets team, it's hard to say one player should match up with them completely, because we don't know who's going to be taking the field.
Real quick to back it up, excellent usage of the word behoove, Rich Hill. I think it might be a podcast first for using the word behoove. So good work there. We'll soon find out. Again, 1 p.m. Thank goodness it's not a primetime game. I can't imagine any reality. This game is like the Sunday night game. So good for them. Anything to talk about or get to predictions?
Let's go to predictions, man.
All right, let's do this. I figured I would go do the opposite of my instinct last week, and I picked the Patriots to win. I was close. They were basically a couple field goals away from possibly winning, but I was wrong. You had the Bills winning, so you get the hammer. Very last prediction of the 2023 season, Rich Hill. Patriots are hosting the Jets. Who you got?
Would it be mean of me to say something like Patriots winning 3-0? Like, is that cruel to us for watching this? Look, the Patriots and Jets, they rank 29th and 32nd in points per game. Jets are scoring less than 16 per game. Patriots are scoring less than 15 per game. Their defenses, middling from a points allowed perspective. Jets allowed 22, Patriots also allowing 22, but a lot of that is due to their ineptitude on offense. From an overall defensive perspective, both top 10 defenses, if not top 5 defenses. This is going to be slow. It's going to be brutal. It's going to be a 10-3 kind of a game. I think the Patriots win this one. I think that they have the ability, Zappy magic out there. It'll be, maybe a game-winning drive at the end there, but it's not going to be a barn burner by any measure. I think the Patriots win it because it is Bill Belichick against the Jets. I think that it'll be enough to kind of knock the Patriots out of the top few draft picks, and I'm kind of okay with it because it's the Jets. Fully understanding that the Patriots only have one win at home this entire year. But I think that the Patriots managed to pull this one off and win 10-3.
10-3. If I remember correctly, Rich Hill, was that also the same score as the Marcus Jones punt return game where it was like 3-3 for the whole time?
Yes.
And then, yes. Okay. We're looking at one of those again. I want to disagree with you, but I don't think you're wrong here. I mean, I don't even know if a touchdown's even feasible. And which scares me, because that means it's going to be a battle of field goals, which means it's legitimately possible that the Jets win this one, because Greg Zuerlein is a accurate kicker by comparison. And so it's the kind of thing where the teams just take turns driving to the 30-yard line and Ryland misses and Zuerlein doesn't. This could be like a 9-6 game very easily. However, you know what? Let's do that. I'll just make it easy for next week. I'll just go with the Jets, go the opposite again. Costanza this. I will go 9-6 New York Jets on 4 field goals. Patriots miss 2 of them. Jets miss 1 of them. Each team gets 4 field goal attempts. 3 of 4 means 9 points, right? And 2 of 4 means 6 points. 9-6 Jets in yet another Patriots game that sets the NFL back decades.
Well, I hope that the Patriots do enough to retain Bill Belichick. I guess maybe my last question for you, Alec, the extra point here. What do you think Bill Belichick has to do here to secure his position for next season, if anything?
If I had to guess, I think whatever they're doing is already kind of decided by Rob Kraft. I don't think he can do anything good or bad. Maybe if the Jets come and like blow them out 45-0, maybe there's some talk about. But I think anything that happens on Sunday, the cards are already dealt. I really hope he comes back. We can talk more about that in the offseason, but I don't think there's anything that can kind of be done at this point to seal Bill Belichick's fate one way or another. I think he wants to go out strong because it's the last game of the season. It's the last home game. It's the Jets. He has every reason to want to go hard because he is the best there's ever been at tunnel vision, being singularly focused on exactly what's in front of him, and he'll worry about it later. So that's probably going to do this one too.
Yeah, no, that's totally fair. And I think that he's pretty close just to continue moving up in the rankings. He's obviously not going to catch Don Shula this year, but every little bit helps. Everything kind of makes his pathway towards that number one spot a little bit closer. That's what he wants. That's what he's sticking around for. And anything that can prove that he should stick around for 2 more years with the Patriots may be able to do it for him if he's able to show that this win against the Jets gets them a little bit closer, keeps the team motivated. I don't want the Patriots going on that coaching carousel, especially because, honestly, GM moves aside, how many better coaches are you really going to get in free agency? You're not. You're chasing another Kyle Shanahan kind of a situation. And so, try and get better, associate coaches and let Bill Belichick keep the helm for a little bit and find him front office support. That's what you got to do.
Give him a top 3 draft pick for the first time in his career and see what he can do with it and a ton of cap space. I think that's a reasonable request. It just didn't work out. Mac Jones isn't the guy. Bailey Zappi's really not the guy. Nobody can win with Bailey Zappi and Mac Jones in the NFL. Doesn't matter which team you put them on. You put those 2 quarterbacks on any team in the NFL, any roster, you're losing most of the games. So let's let Belichick have a shot at least to build the roster one more time. I'm all for that. But again, we're talking off season, Rich. This is regular season. We got to let this season come to a merciful close. The good news is next time you and I get together next week, it'll be rear view mirror time. We can talk about what could have been, what should have been, and what will be going forward. And that'll be a lot more fun, in my personal opinion.
Absolutely. Well, until next time, Alec, you have a good one.
You too, buddy. See ya.